Yet it is not our part to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have clean earth to till. What weather they shall have is not ours to rule.
Hey everyone, Yoyston here, and I hope you all are doing well, wherever you are in Middle-earth. Today we will be finishing our What's Different series as it pertains to the Return of the King and Lord of the Rings at large. It has been a great time going through the book to film differences, and I hope you all had a good time too. If you are new to this series, please check out our What's Different series to catch up to this point. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. Starting first with Aragorn's plotline in the film. After the Houses of Healing, Aragorn and the others hold council, the last debate in the throne room of Minas Tirith. This, of course, is different in the book, as Aragorn wished to not cause political strife by entering the city, with the exception of the Houses of Healing. But he held council near his war tents outside of the city. But in the film, after they decide to go to the Black Gate to cause a diversion, Aragorn further incites Sauron's attention by using the Palantir, the Orthanc stone, here. In the book, this happened at the Hornburg sometime before the Battle of the Pelennor Fields, but after the defeat of Isengard. The company rides forth to the gate, and the captains speak to the mouth of Sauron, and after he shows the mithril coat of Frodo, Aragorn beheads him and gives a great speech to the men of the West, and the battle begins. There are a lot of differences there that we will go back to in a bit, but during the battle, the Eagles come in and help the West against the Nazgul, and Aragorn almost dies fighting a large troll before the One Ring is destroyed and Barad-dûr falls. The West had victory, but at what cost? Now in the book, the same general plot points happen, but with far more nuance. As I mentioned, the captains of the West hold their debate in Aragorn's war tent outside of the city, instead of within it. And Prince Imrahil, who is absent from the film, actually plays quite a role in this conversation, acknowledging Aragorn as his king, but that the plan that they have is like a fly with a sting, and Gandalf says that Sauron will try to trap the fly and take the sting, as they want him to think Aragorn is doing this as one who is arrogant with power, the power of the One Ring. All the while, this would either give Frodo enough time to destroy the ring, or they would be doomed, but if they waited, they were all doomed anyway. And so they decided that the time for stealth was over, and they wanted to draw as much attention from the Dark Lord as possible, so as the host of the West journeyed east, they broke the bridge to the Morgul Vale, lest they could be attacked from behind, and all the way they announced the return of the king to Gondor. However, Pippin alone of the hobbits made this journey, for Merry still recovered in the Houses of Healing with Éowyn and Faramir. Pippin would slay a troll during the battle, and he would almost perish only to be saved by Gimli. Faramir and Éowyn would even have their own chapter and love story, ending with an eagle crying out to Gondor about the fall of Sauron and the end of the Shadow. I should also mention that though his forces were small, Aragorn gave leave to 1,000 men who were afraid to come to the Black Gate, to go to Cair Andros instead and retake it. Anyway, after arriving at the Black Gate, they spoke with the mouth of Sauron indeed, but under a banner of safety, so Aragorn would not behead the messenger, as that would be very dishonorable. But Gandalf did much of the speaking, and he would even use magic of light to distract the mouth of Sauron and his followers, and recover the mithril shirt and sword of the hobbits. However, the mouth would only think there was actually one hobbit in Mordor, and a spy at that, not two, with one of them being a ring-bearer. And so the battle would be fought, and the Eagles would come, only for the Ring-Wraiths to retreat towards Mount Doom, with the Black Gate of Mordor soon after being rent asunder, and Barad-dûr falling. Now we continue with Frodo's storyline in the film as he makes his way to Mount Doom with Sam, and actually this is pretty close to the events of the book, with a few changes. They had to pass for orcs to make it through the plains of Mordor, just like in the book, and their odds of coming to Mount Doom to complete their quest look bleak, but they are able to do it in the end. However, one difference calls back to an earlier moment in the Two Towers, in the film version, as Sam says here that he does not think there will be a return journey. This greater underlying conversation about whether they have enough hope to go there and back again is definitely more prevalent in the films than in the books, and it is a heartbreaking moment here. We also have a moment where Frodo and Sam discuss the things Frodo cannot remember, as the ring and the shadow have taken them from him, and Sam carries him up the final part of Mount Doom, where Gollum ambushes them, and they come at last to the moment of fate, and Frodo cannot destroy the ring. It is indeed only destroyed after Frodo and Gollum fight, and the two fall, with Frodo alone catching the edge, and Gollum and the One Ring falling into the lava. Sam saves Frodo, and the two make it out of Mount Doom, there at the end of all things. 3 eagles, one which bore Gandalf, would descend and save the hobbits, while the 3rd eagle, likely meant for Gollum, would leave without a burden to carry. Coming into the book, there were more small tie-ins to the greater story at work, with mostly the same main scenes happening, but with a bit of different dialogue. First, the hobbits would notice a shift in the wind, for far away the Witch King perished on the fields of Pelennor. Great things in the world were changing. The hobbits would continue noticing that they were being tracked, either by Gollum or something else. Indeed, 2 orcs tracked them. They would eventually hear orcs and would be forced to stealthily join the company of marching orcs and find their way out. They would continue forth, with Sam carrying Frodo for a time as well, but then they would run into Gollum. Frodo would put a heavy fate on him with his voice, saying that if Gollum ever touched him again, he would be cast himself into the fires of Mount Doom. Sam, in this moment, almost slew the creature, but mercy touched his heart once more, and he let Gollum go, even after everything he had done. Of course, coming into Sammath Naur and Mount Doom, Frodo would not destroy the ring, claiming lordship over it, and Gollum would attack the hobbits and take the One Ring for himself. The big difference here, and one of the bigger differences between the books and films at large, is that Gollum, while dancing, fell into the fires of Mount Doom. And if he was pushed at all, it was either by the fate Frodo had put on him earlier, or by Eru Ilúvatar, God himself. It is quite unclear how and why Gollum slipped and fell. Thus, the ring and Gollum both were destroyed, and the hobbits made it to relative safety, while Frodo reflected on what Gandalf had said, that Gollum would have some part to play before it was all over. Indeed, Frodo realized that, if not for Gollum, the ring would never have been destroyed. Gandalf, coming straight from the Black Gate, would save Frodo and Sam with the 3 eagles, Gwaihir, Landrovul, and Meneldor. Now let's speak of the endings of the film and then the book, which differ quite greatly, and I will quickly summarize both as to grasp the many differences, but I would recommend reading The Return of the King from the Field of Cormallen chapter to the end, as all those chapters are quite different from the movie version. Concerning the film, Frodo awakes in Minas Tirith and reunites with the company, coming to Aragorn's coronation/wedding. The Fellowship eventually splits, and the hobbits return to the Shire. Sam is married, and Frodo writes his book, but it's clear not everything is how it was, especially with Frodo. Going with Bilbo and Gandalf to the Grey Havens, the hobbits see the elves board the ship with Bilbo, and they say farewell to Gandalf and then to Frodo, coming to realize that he is going with them. Frodo gives Sam the Red Book of Westmarch and leaves his kin behind, going into the West. Sam then returns home to his family, and thus the incredible and near-perfect Lord of the Rings movie trilogy comes to its end. Finally, looking quickly at the book's version of the end, the hobbits awake in the fields of Cormallen after the destruction of the One Ring, and they are honored by the host of the West. Aragorn goes on to be crowned outside of Minas Tirith, and he asks that his friends wait in Minas Tirith until after his wedding, before they leave, and then they would all go on together back to Rohan. Éomer and others leave to Rohan earlier to prepare for Theoden's funeral before coming back and accompanying the procession. And Aragorn would in the meantime find a white tree sapling with Gandalf on Mount Mindolluin behind the city, which was then planted in the courtyard. Many elves from Rivendell and Lothlorien then arrived in Minas Tirith, and Aragorn and Arwen were married. Arwen goes on to recognize the pain in Frodo and gives him her necklace and her place in Valinor. And so the elves accompany the mighty procession of Theoden's body back to Rohan, along with King Elisar and the others, and in Edoras his memorial and Éomer's coronation is held, as well as Éowyn and Faramir's wedding. They all then go on to the Hornburg, and Gimli and Legolas walk in the glittering caves together. Then the mighty group goes on to Isengard and speaks with Treebeard about Saruman and the Elder Days. From there, Legolas and Gimli leave to explore the Fangorn, and by that way go back home to their own people. Soon after Isengard, Aragorn bids the company farewell, holding up the Elisar stone in goodbye to them. The elves of the White Council and the hobbits continue back towards Rivendell, coming upon Saruman and Wormtongue along the way. Eventually, the elves of Lorien depart over the mountains for their home, and everyone else goes back to Rivendell. Frodo and Bilbo catch up, and soon the hobbits and Gandalf depart to go west, coming back to Bree, where they notice ruffians and brigands have taken hold. The hobbits hurry home to the Shire, while Gandalf goes to see Tom Bombadil, and the hobbits deal with Saruman's servants during the end of the Scouring of the Shire. In the end, Saruman is slain by Wormtongue, and Wormtongue is killed by hobbit archers, like how Legolas slew him in the movie. The Shire is restored for the next few years, but the pain does not leave Frodo, who decides to go with the Ring-Bearers to the Grey Havens, and from the Grey Havens into the West, where on the way Frodo's dream in the House of Tom Bombadil from the Fellowship of the Ring book is realized. Sam would return home to his family, and so the immaculate, perfect books of the Lord of the Rings come to their end. As we wrap up this series, I want to add in some of my reflections. I've always said during these What's Different videos that I love both tellings and both versions in their own right. The books have so much character and culture and depth in them, while the movies make things so much easier concerning immersion and understanding the plot. These books are my favorite books, and these movies are my favorite movies, and I think the adaptation from the former to the latter is as close to perfect as possible. It isn't easy adapting books like these to film, but I think everyone involved did a tremendous job. Most of us, myself included, have these movies to thank for getting us into the deeper lore and the books at all. And I will always cherish both tellings of the story. And so we come to the end of our tale concerning what's different between the Lord of the Rings books and films. From this part of What's Different, we see that many are the strange chances in life, and we cannot see all ends, just as none knew the true importance of Gollum until the time came, and none knew if or how the king would return to Gondor, and he did. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed both this video and this series at large. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button and share this series with a friend. It feels amazing to complete a long-running series like What's Different concerning the Lord of the Rings, and I hope you all enjoyed it over these years as much as I have. Let me know your thoughts, questions, additions, and corrections on all of this in the comments below. And let me know if you'd like to see a What's Different series for the Hobbit book to movies, as there are many differences. I think I would actually do one video per movie in that series, as the Hobbit book is not too large indeed, and many of the scenes in the movies are original. For me, it has definitely been worth exploring these differences, and I hope it got more people to explore both tellings of The Lord of the Rings. Thanks to our Valar tier patrons, Adrian de la Tour, Chris Ortner, Kyle Wetzel, Peter Shepard, Jonathan Putnam, Mark Kralik, Blair Scouten, Merton John Hume, Jennifer Wood, Sam McBee, Matt Sabach, Elizabeth Calvert, Maz Gibbs, Ben Gardner, Kondar, Reese Jenkins, Adam Petrulik, Kuzan, Brandon Glidden, and Molly Sullivan. Thank you so much, and thanks to all of our patrons, it really means a lot. Please subscribe and hit that bell button to join the Men of the West and all of the Free Peoples today, and I'll see you all again next Sunday with a video on the top 10 most important moments in the history of Middle-earth, a video that should help people get deeper into the lore. You all are the best, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.